Kamka. I work as a researcher at CSN Chicago. That has nothing to do with this. So why am I here?
I don't know.
It all started back maybe a year and a half ago. I tweeted obscure baseball facts as I normally do, and my friend Jeff Katz replied. Jeff, as some of you know, wrote Split Season 1981, a great book on the 81 season, and he's also the mayor of Cooperstown, literally. Well, in any event, I said everyone is the answer to at least one trivia question. It's my mission to find those questions. So out of that grew an ambition to do just that. So I'm up near 4,000 so far. There's about 19,000 total. I'll never finish it, but at least I'll try. But for the sake of a presentation, I just can't stand up here and rattle or sit down and rattle off stuff like Cesar Geronimo. He was both Bob Gibson and Nolan Ryan's 3,000th strikeout victim. Jim DeShays. He allowed the final career home run of both Mike Schmidt and Carlton Fisk. Ezra Sutton hit the first home run in National Association history, and the second. I can't do that. It doesn't make it. There needs to be some kind of theme, so I came up with one. Players whose entire major league career was one game. There's 991 of them. I'm not doing them all.
Wow.
Al Barker. Rockford was once one of the dozen or so baseball powerhouses in the country, believe it or not. The team was formed in 1865, but the game that put the four-city nine on the map was July 25th, 1867 at Dexter Park on Chicago's south side. In fact, the game is featured in SABR's Inventing Baseball, the 100 Greatest Games of the 19th Century, and John Thorne's essay on the game is entitled The Most Important Game in Baseball History? Rockford pulled off a 29-23 win over George Wright in the Washingtons, perhaps the biggest upset in baseball history up to that date. Rockford was a big deal. They had Al Spalding and Ross Barnes, and despite the fact that those two were whisked away by Harry Wright's Boston Red Stockings for 1871 when the National Association was formed, hey, Rockford at least had a team in the league. Al Barker played in one regular season game for the Rockford entry. He was a substitute by then. He did appear in a few exhibitions. This would be his lone major league game on June 1st, 1871, and yes, I do consider the National Association of Major Leagues. Parker ended up the only man to play for the Rockford Forest City Club in its initial season, 1865, and as well as its lone years in Major League, 1871. I've done a lot of study on this team, so to me, I think that's pretty cool. Nate Birkenstock, according to this card, he's Jewish. October 30, 1871. At the end of the 1871 season, one game more or less decided the inaugural National Association Championship. If there still remains some argument to that point afterwards, but for all intents and purposes, that was it. The Union Grounds in Brooklyn hosted a battle between the Philadelphia Athletics, Birkenstock played with them, and the Chicago White Stockings. Those White Stockings were playing out the season with borrowed uniforms, playing on borrowed grounds. Why? Because earlier that month, the Great Chicago Fire wiped out their ballpark, which is where Millennium Park is now, and their uniforms, and so much more. In any event, this is the backdrop for the lone major league game for Nate Birkenstock, who was fairly well-known Philadelphia amateur. Well, he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. But with his name in the book, he possesses the earliest known birth year of any major league player ever, 1831. As well as probably being the first 40-year-old to play the game. Consider that when he was born, there were only 24 states. And in case anyone here was curious, the last major leaguer to appear in a game who was born before there were fully 50 states was Julio Franco, 2007. Whereas Birkenstock has the earliest known birth year, it is Lewis Carroll who has the earliest known birth date. Born February 25th, 1832, 148 years to the day before I was. Carl was 42 years old when he debuted on September 9th, 1874. His entire major league career consisted of one game for the 1874 Baltimore Canaries, which can also be said for 4 other players: Hugh Reed, Frederick Boardman, Henry Revel, and someone named Wood. They didn't get his first name. Hey, it's the 1870s, give them some credit. The team finished 9-38 and didn't return for 1875. This is a June 21st, 1879 game between the Providence Grays and Cleveland. Subsequent research, the great article in Slate, it revealed that a man by the name of William Edward White, who went to Brown University and played one game for the Providence Grays, was apparently the first black player in Major League history. The 18 or 19-year-old replaced Joe Stark, who was out with an injury. So how did this take so long to surface? First of all, he's listed as white on his death certificate. He passed himself off as white. He was born in 1870 to a Georgia businessman and one of his slaves, Hannah. He never played again. Well, why? Nobody knows, but it's possible that somebody discovered his background and unfortunately prevented him from playing again. There is White right there. So, for August 15th, 1878, from Peter Morris's great book, Catcher, all three Milwaukee catchers went down with injury, and the reserve summons didn't arrive in time. Local amateur Alfred Jennings was enlisted to catch the hard-throwing Mike Golden. Jennings later said, "We were all mixed up on our signs. I signed for an out curve and got in shoot, which broke a couple of fingers. Go ahead," I said, "I'll stay here all day, even if I have to stop him with my elbow. You can't drive me away." Well, they didn't. I had 17 pass balls that afternoon. Well, he was a little hard on himself. It was actually 10 pass balls, which is the most ever in a one-game career from 1876 to present. Now, Cincinnati writer O.P. Kaler couldn't resist and embellished a little bit in his article. The coming catcher, Alamazoo Jennings, makes his debut. His hands gave out, but his gall lasted. It was widely quoted and reprinted, and the legend was born. Jennings said, "I read a few lines and wanted to fight. I read a few lines more and had to laugh." Later, a Milwaukee writer wrote his famous record of 26 pass balls. That's the book, Peter Morris, Catcher. A little excerpt we have there from, great book. September 21st, 1922. Manager Tris Speaker used 21 players in this game, one of which was Elmer Doc Hammond. Hammond's day went like this: walk, walk, hit by pitch, walk, triple, single, single. 7 batters faced as a post-1900 career record for the most without recording an out. That was it. April 24th, 1904, Tom Doherty of the White Sox faces 6 batters, retires them all, and gets the win. The only pitcher with at least one career win with 0 base runners allowed.
Scary, huh?
September 30th, 1910, St. Louis Browns versus Chicago White Sox. Ray Jansen of the Browns went 4 for 5, and that was his only game. He's the only player in Major League history with a one-game career and as many as 4 hits. Nearly 100 fans see a game. The count was actually 97. September 4th, 1913. Hal Schwenk of St. Louis Browns is the only pitcher in Major League history with a one-game career with a complete game win of more than 9 innings. Imagine that. 11 innings. He went longer than he had to and then never appeared again. 11 innings, 12 hits, 4 runs all earned, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. And that was all. Josh Sherrick. 1 pinch hit appearance for the Browns. September 17th, 1914. He walked and stole 2 bases. He's the only player with multiple stolen bases in a one-game career. He later served as New York State Supreme Court Justice from 1935 to 60. Len Gilmore started and completed a game. It was the only game of his career for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Game 2 of a doubleheader on October 1st, 1944. Nobody's had a single game career with a complete complete game pitched since. Charlie Eamon, one start on September 4th, 1896 for the Louisville Colonels. First game of a doubleheader. He got the loss, 8 innings, 12 hits, 17 runs, 7 earned, 7 walks, 1 strikeout. More interestingly, he is one of 19 known players in Major League history to live to at least 100 years old, and the only one gamer. He lived to be 100 years, 180 days old. He died on October 2nd, 1975. Most notably, he was the last living former major leaguer who played a game prior to 1900. That's Evers. Joe Evers, Giants' brother. He got to one game for the New York Giants on April 24th, 1913. The New York Times the next day said, Joe Evers, Johnny's younger brother, got into the game for the first time in the 3rd inning when he ran for Chief Myers and was tagged out on the base in an attempted double steal. Didn't even appear in the box score. That's Larry Yount, Robin's brother. One major league game. September 15th, 1971 for the Houston Astros. He was announced into the game for the Astros at the top of the ninth. Suffered an injury while warming up. Now, since he was announced, he does get credit for an appearance. The only man in Major League history to be a pitcher, he had not faced any batters for his career. He never pitched again. These are the Larkin brothers. Barry, you may recognize on over here. This is Steven. He played one game, September 27th, 1998. And the most notable thing about that game was the starting lineup for the Reds. The infield featured 2 sets of brothers. Stephen Larkin at first, Barry Larkin at short. Second base was Brett Boone, third base was his brother Aaron. One of the more notable one-game careers was that of John Short, Tom's brother, September 29th, 1963. 5 plate appearances, 3 for 3, 2 walks. Most career hits with a 1,000 career batting average, 3 for 3. Unfortunately, a back injury cut his career short. Now, his brother Tom has a lot of good fun facts for him as well. Now, Tom Short, who's a great guy, one of the most fun guys, the nicest people you'll ever meet, trust me. He was a starting first baseman in Ted Turner's lone game as manager. He hit walk-off homers in consecutive games in 1981. He homered in each of his last 2 Major League games at age 40 in 1987, and was the middle home run of the first back-to-back-to-back in White Sox history, September 9th, 1983. That's Tom, who went through. This is Fred Lindstrom, Hall of Famer. His son Charlie got into one game for the White Sox, September 28th, 1958. 1 at bat, 1 triple, caught 5 innings. That's Connie Mack. Now the next 2 things are going to be about managers. There's one manager in Major League history who has 4 times as many World Series championships as manager as he has Major League games played. That's Walter Alston, who appeared in the game for the Cardinals September 27th, 1936 against the Cubs. He went 0 for 4 with a strikeout against Lon Morning. There's another Major League manager, current. He will never manage a Major League player with a better career batting average than he had. It's Jeff Bannister. July 23rd, 1991, he appeared in one game for the Pirates. He went 1 for 1 in his Major League career, pinch hit for Doug Drabek in the 12-3 Pirates rout. Now, for the 1912 Detroit Tigers, 17 players for the 1912 Tigers appeared in only one game. For 10 of those 17 was their lone Major League game. 8 of those 10 appeared in one game. May 18, 1912, Ty Cobb did not play today. Why? Well, because 3 days earlier, he lost his cool and attacked a fan who had heckled him mercilessly. When Cobb was suspended, his teammates staged a strike which lasted 1 game. Tigers had to cobble together a lineup. 8 players played their lone career game that day. I will mention 2 here. Alan Travers pitched a complete game. He even hit third. Complete game, 26 hits, 24 runs, 14 earned. 7 walks and a strikeout. It was the most runs allowed in one game career from 1876 to present. He is believed also to be the only Catholic priest to appear in a Major League game. Also in the game was Ed Irwin. He pinch hit for Billy Mahard, an infamous name in the Black Sox scandal, and went on to go 2 for 3 with a pair of triples. Irwin is the only player with multiple extra base hits in his lone Major League game, and he never played again. August 4th, 1945 was a pretty notable game, especially for the Washington Senators. The only player to appear in a Major League game with an artificial leg is Bert Shepard, who suffered injuries during World War II. Tom McBride, Dave Ferris of Boston, and Walter Holborough, one-legged Bert Shepard of Washington, had a big take today as the team split into twin bills, said the newspaper the next day. And he did pretty well. But the man he relieved was Joe Cleary, who also made his lone Major League appearance. 1/3 of an inning, 5 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Born in Ireland, he is the most recent Irish-born player to appear in a Major League game. Bert Shepard. John Haldeman, July 3rd, 1877. Went 0 for 4 playing second base in his lone Major League game with the Louisville Grays. 3 really interesting facts about this. He was the baseball writer for the Louisville Courier-Journal, pretty much their beat writer. His father, Walter, was a majority owner and president of the Grays, and later basically broke the gambling scandal, which got Bill Craver, George Hall, Al Nichols, and Jim Dublin all banned from baseball. August 5th, 1884. The newspaper the next day said, Chicago tried another amateur pitcher yesterday, Lynch, a deaf mute, who was formerly a student at the Deaf Mute College in Washington, D.C., pitched for one of the college teams. He did okay, but then he swapped with his first baseman, Cap Anson, who came in there and just gave the game away. So, Thomas Lynch is the answer to the question, who did Cap Anson relieve in his 3rd and final Major League pitching appearance? Could have got the win. The manager didn't let it happen. Now here's a really intriguing one. May 9th, 1888. John Green pitched 1 game for Washington against Anson's White Stockings. Complete game loss with 17 hits, 13 runs, 11 earned, 4 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Subsequent research revealed that not only was he born in 1848, making 39 or 40 years old, but he was a Civil War veteran. And as far as I can tell, this is the last Major League appearance by a Civil War veteran. Now, he would appear, he pretty much advertised in the newspaper. He picked up by a team. Washington said, we need a guy. October 9th, 1910. Chief Chuano, whose real name was William Pedro, got a starting assignment for the White Sox against the Cowboys Tigers on October 9th. And there's a reason I point out the Tigers were without their star batter that day. Because meanwhile in St. Louis, the Browns handed Napoleon Lajoie the batting title on a platter, allowing him 8 hits on the doubleheader. Thanks greatly to third baseman Ray Corden, played back and allowed Lajoie to bunt over and over. There was a big dispute over this batting title, which further research found that Lajoie won it anyway, but that's another story. Here's a college football Hall of Fame. Paul Shorty Desjardins, who was 6'5". Ironic. He pitched 1 inning, allowing 1 hit, 2 runs, and walk for the Indians against the Senators. He was a 1955 inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame, a member of the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame, football, baseball, basketball, track, and field. He also appeared in the predecessor of the NFL in 1920, the Chicago Tigers, teammate of former Major Leaguer Garland Buckeye, and the NFL in 1922 from Minneapolis. Chet Hajduk appeared in 1 game for the White Sox, April 16, 1941. He grounded out against Al Milnar. His claim to fame, I dated his granddaughter several years ago. It didn't work. I married somebody much better. Now here's a man who owes his one-game career to the rain. Allow me to explain this. It was the second game of a doubleheader. The Dodgers in the pennant race with the Cardinals going down to the wire against the Braves at Braves Field. There's a steady drizzle, but umpire George Barr isn't calling this game. From the New York Times the next day. Young Kuzik became an enforced pinch hitter because Connie Ryan came out to the batsman's circle attired in a long black raincoat and was promptly chased out of the game by the indignant Barr. Before the inning ended, 2 or 3 Braves had built a small bonfire on the edge of the dugout, but Barr wisely chose to ignore this jeering gesture. So, with Connie Ryan being ejected from the game, this man, Steve Kuzik, as it's pronounced in the newspaper, was able to get a hit. And with the Braves down 8-0 in the bottom of the 5th, after Tommy Holmes led the inning off with a single, Kuzik doubled off Don checked out the next 3 batters, and the game was called after 5 innings, and that was his career. Flame Deli pitched for the Chicago White Sox one game, and the headline of the newspaper that day was this. He pitched the day after the Titanic song. The Arizona SABR chapter's name is the Flame Deli chapter. Why is that? Because he was the first Arizona-born major leaguer. Charlie Hallstrom, September 23rd, 1885, for the Providence Grays, pitched one game in Chicago against the White Stockings. King Kelly had his first career multi-homer game that day, both off Hallstrom. Hallstrom's the first Swedish-born player in Major League history. Alfredo Cabrera, May 16, 1913, one game at shortstop for the 1913 St. Louis Cardinals, first Spanish-born player in the majors, because he was born in Spanish-ruled Canary Islands, which is actually off the coast of Africa. July 10th, 1917, for the St. Louis Browns, Otto New played one game at shortstop and never got a time at bat. Otto New is what Fangraphs calls its fantasy baseball service. Elvio Jimenez, October 4th, 1964. Debuted in the Yankees' last regular season game of 1964. A 13-inning 2-1 loss. He played the whole game in left field. One of 3 players in Major League history with a 6 plate appearance game in his lone Major League game. He went 2 for 6 with 2 hits, 1 each off of Tommy John and Louis Tiant, and he's the first Dominican-born player in Yankees history. Frank Estrada, September 14, 1971. The 23-year-old from Mexico went 1 for 2 off the bench at home against the Expos. Most notably known is part of the Nolan Ryan trade, which sent Jim Fergosi to the Mets. And I have one trivia question here for you. Which former Major League outfielder was a pioneer in the study of hypertension in children? Here's a hint, and it's a picture of him. Well, it's not him. That's Burt Lancaster. This is Moonlight Graham. Played one game for the New York Giants, June 29th, 1905. There's a box score. And another trivia question is, who's the player he replaced? George Brown is the answer to that question, former White Sox player. And what would a one-game career presentation be without this?
Oh, yeah.
The shortest player in Major League history at 3'7". He wore number 1/8, and a few fun trivia facts that come out of it. Pinch hit for Frank Saucier. He was pinch run for by Jim Delsing, and he faced Bob Kane. And he lived here, which is now a grocery store. And why do I know that? Because in 1951, newspapers had no problem with printing a ball player's home address. Delvin was 26 and lived at 4801 South Wolcott Avenue in Chicago. And notice the headline. So those are one-game careers. I hope you all enjoyed it. This time next year, I'll be here doing 2-game careers. I already have a few in mind. Thank you.
Cool.
Yes. Okay.
grandnephews.
Yes.
6'5", I believe.
That's perfect.
Or 6, I don't know.
Reached me
And the
by
other thing, this is
St.
very
National
cool,
Waste.
is I actually have a pair of replica syrup socks in the Hall of Fame to go with Eddie Goodell's original uniform that I knit for them because they had his uniform lent to them by the family for their wonderful books exhibit a couple years ago. And I got what can only be described as a panicked phone call from Tom Schieber, who is the senior curator, saying, by the way, we're opening in 2.5 weeks and we don't have syrup socks here with uniform that looks terrible. Can you do this? And so we figured he had syrup socks for me, and so if you see pictures of the Eddie Goodell uniform, there's a replica knitted by my name under the thing.
Very cool. I'll make sure to check it out.
Oh, good.
And it's not explained anymore.
No?
This was a summer exhibit 2 years ago. But the point being, those are more trivia questions.
Cool.
Love it. Yes.
Field of Dreams, I believe, was Bergman Castles and last film.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I remember hearing that. Great movie. Yes, sir.
Eddie Goodell. Bill Beck hired a number of midgets to be vendors because with a 6-foot-tall person, those in the stands were having trouble seeing around them. So, got much shorter vendors.
That's so fact.
The only problem was, I think the Goodell and the crew lasted only 1 day because of sore feet.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.